Hi, today we will be tackling a case study that highlights a moral issue faced by the board of FloRoll Manufacturing Company.
A moral issue is an issue of moral concern presented as any issue potential to help or harm anyone, including oneself. Hence, whatever the decision of the company in this case may not just affect their customers but their business venture as well. This is when engineering ethics, business ethics, and legal frameworks come into play, where it involves investigation into values, meanings, and facts based on a occurring problem. The following are the different types of inquiries.
The first is normative inquiry. This identifies and justifies the morally desirable nature for guiding groups and individuals. This includes the responsibility of a manager or an engineer to protect the public safety and how they should act to such dangerous practices.
The second is conceptual inquiries. Conceptual inquiry refers to the description of meaning of concepts, principles, and issues related to engineering and business ethics. The ethics that an engineer or manager should possess to protect the safety, health, and welfare of the public are described under conceptual inquiries.
The last one is factual and descriptive inquiries, which provide facts for understanding and finding solutions to value-based issues. The manager or the engineer have to conduct a factual gathering of data in order to find a solution by using scientific techniques. Judging moral issues has to be followed by systematic procedure in order to avoid any flaws, especially that a manager voluntarily accepts responsibilities for employees, customers, shareholders, and suppliers, and must work within the confines of legal frameworks, social responsibilities, and competition.
Now, let's go to the problem. The sales director recently closed a multi-million-dollar deal with an African state for the supply of FloRolls. But the training manager, Vic Smith, reported to the board that the level of skills and knowledge of the country's first group elite engineers were so slow that no amount of training would be ever enabled to properly operate and maintain equipment as complex as FloRolls. Vic suggests that the country would be better off buying a less featured but similar product such as sold by a competitors. Should the board whether or not disclose the information to the customer?
Now let's go to the objectives. The first objective is to identify the short-term and long-term effects of the sets of options that the company comes up to, which is crucial for the development of their venture in the future. The second objective is to identify which is the most ethical decision the company has to make relative to the situation the company is currently in.
There are two things to consider for the first objective. First is the sales director recently closed a multi-million-dollar deal with an African state for the supply of FloRolls. The second is the training manager Vic Smith's suggestion to buying a less featured but simpler product such as sold by a competitor because the level of skill and knowledge of the country's first group of elite engineers were so slow that no amount of training would ever enable them to properly operate and maintain equipment as complex as a FloRoll. What are the likely scenarios then if the board decides to agree with the training manager's suggestion? The first is the revoking of the multi-million-dollar deal, but legal actions may follow. We have to take note that deals and contracts cannot easily be undone and revoked, especially that this is a multi-million-dollar already. This is the same reason why the funds for the highly politicized Dolomite Beach in Manila Bay can no longer be redirected to COVID-19 response because the contract was already awarded in 2019, the time when the pandemic has not hit yet. Therefore, if the board will follow the training manager's suggestion to just buy a simpler product, the company might face a lawsuit from African state for breaking the contract of the deal and could be facing a large amount of money as compensation for the damages of the revoking of the deal created to the supplier. The second likely scenario is market saturation and market share erosion. Buying a less featured but simpler product such as sold by a competitor only means that the company will have to compete more with a competitor's already established market. This is harmful because the consumers you are targeting are the same consumers who already trusted your competitor because the market you are targeting now was never the original market highlighted in your market research and study as your company was into selling FloRolls to begin with. This results to a market share erosion because you only get a little share of the current target market, which means lesser profit and net benefit for the company. This might end up to bankruptcy, or the company might still have to innovate and change product in the future because of low sales. We think that it is marginally better to stay with FloRoll, as there is already a sure market for the product and that you are no longer going to need to share with a competitor, and the fact that the company made a multi-million-dollar deal only means that the market for FloRoll is massive. The third and last likely scenario is public backlash and degradation of company's name and branding. One interest of a company is to establish a reputable business venture. This happens through ensuring a good relationship with the customer, but also in creating a trustable transactions with suppliers. Revoking the multi-million-dollar deal will only result into a bad track record for the company, which suppliers' main enemy in the business. Suppliers want to make sure that they only make transactions to companies who are true to their words and are trustable entities. This is harmful because bad track record results to lesser investors and market as well. Now, to identify whether the board should disclose or not this information to the customers, here's John Rexer taking it for you.
Alternative course of action. The board should disclose the information to the customer. Advantages. Promote transparent relation with consumers. To build loyalty, companies must earn the trust of their customers. Consistency builds trust, deepens relationships, exposes customers' challenges, and sparks innovation. Customers must be given adequate information to make a correct decision in choosing a product which satisfies their needs. The board will know the reactions of the people, which might help for their next decision. Since there is a good relationship with the customers and the company, there is a feedback from the customers, and this might be helpful in the next innovation. Disadvantages. Backlash from consumers, put company into a bad branding, affect current and future consumers. Consumers tend to get against the company, and this could lead to affect the consumer satisfaction levels. Company sales and revenues will be affected. This could impact the company's growth.
The second alternative course of action is that the board should not disclose the information to the customer. The advantages for this is: number one, this is to protect sensitive information that might affect the operation of the company and can be taken advantage by company's competitors. The second is to avoid organizations' loss of revenues and sales due to public panic and anger, which might push them to stop buying the product. The third is this helps to preserve key business relationship with the customers, shareholders, and suppliers. And the last one is that this allows companies to pick and choose the information actually released to the public, as they also need to protect organizational trademark and privacy. The disadvantage for this alternative course of action is that in the long run, this results to customers' dismay and distrust to the company. However, this only happens when the customers find out that there is a problem in terms of maintenance with FloRolls. Therefore, the problem with maintenance can still be resolved without involving the consumers, such as by employing engineers from outside the country who are already expert in the field if there is really no engineer inside the country that can maintain the product, or there is no skill for an engineer to maintain the product in the country. This is also the must take action in this case study, as this alternative action possesses the least disadvantage or the least negative among other options.
Conclusion. The board should not disclose the information to the customers because this can affect the organization's revenues and sales and could impact the company's growth. Instead, the organization should identify the loopholes that can affect the sales and consumers' satisfaction level. Also, the company should make creative decisions that can help serve the customers to avoid any backlash from the consumers that could put the company into a bad branding and affect the current and future consumers.
I'm Harvey D. Melendres reporting from Esperanza, Agusan del Sur.
I am John Rexter Magbago, reporting from Sinacaban, Misamis Occidental. Wear
Wear
your
your
mask,
mask,
sanitize,
sanitize,
exercise social distancing, and get
and get
vaccinated.
vaccinated.
Amping.